Here we are again, folks. You made it back for some more from your old pal Mage here on the Square the Circle music channel. Thanks for joining me again. Second video this week. I don't really do that very often, but um, I felt maybe like I might have cheated some of you folks with the video I posted last night because it was just all about me and my narcissistic ass. So uh, we're actually going to talk about some music tonight. I concocted a top 10 list. Before we get into that, let's not forget to head on over to Instagram and visit your old pal over there on the old Instagram. You can find me at Square the Circle Records. Of course, there's an underscore in between all of those. So go check me out on Instagram. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And I'm just going to get right into it. Tonight, we're doing a top 10 list of all of my favorite country music albums. That's right. I may not seem to a lot of you folks that tune into my channel frequently. I may not seem like the type of individual that really likes country music, but that ain't true. Appearances aren't everything. I really love country music and American folk, which I kind of, they're I wouldn't say they're the same genre by any stretch of the imagination, but they definitely go hand in hand. You wouldn't have country music, modern day country music, if it wasn't for American folk music. So they kind of, like I said, they're kind of all in the same breadbasket, so to speak. And I come from a long line of rednecks here in the Pacific Northwest. And there was always a lot of really great country and American folk music on when I was growing up. Not really specifically from my parents, because my parents did not like country music. But mom and dad definitely respected some of like the greater names in the genre and the storytelling and the just like the heritage of it all and the American folk and that they really loved and respected that aspect of it, and that's kind of where my sensibilities gear toward. I'll try not to get too long with this whole thing like I do. I like to tell stories. But a lot of my extended family members here in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of family up in Washington State, specifically like in Spokane and surrounding areas, a lot of family in and around the St. Helens and Scappoose area, which is just north of Portland in Oregon. And of course, my father's family from Steens Mountain area in Oregon, and just a lot of that type of kind of like cowboy country type of redneck history in my family. And I'm not ashamed at all of it. I was when I was in high school in the 90s. But yeah, it wasn't cool. It wasn't popular to like that type of music. I mean, actually, it was. It was really popular. I just didn't like the shit that was popular. I didn't like what was on the radio. I didn't like the guys and the girls who kind of gravitated toward that arena, if you know what I mean. A lot of them were kind of assholes, but I definitely found my niche and found my group of people in the more kind of, anti-establishment kind of, anti-authoritarian groups, so to speak, of the 90s. So I kind of shunned that whole lifestyle and aspect, and what everyone just kind of automatically lumped into the right wing and the Republican and that type of sentimentality and that type of ideology that was attached to it. And I like to leave all that garbage out of my music. And I really love and respect a lot of the old timey, like I said, the folksy root aspects of Americana and folk and spirituals and gospel music and all of that just kind of like blossomed into modern country music, what you hear coming out of the greats of the golden era of the 40s, 50s, 60s country music as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Again, sorry about the long-winded opener I always do, but I like to preface it with kind of a little bit of like what's to come sort of stuff. Like, you're not going to see Clint Black records and Garth Brooks records and shit on here. So that was the kind of stuff that I was really trying hard to like stay the fuck away from when it became really popular in the 80s and 90s, and I had, like I said, I had cousins that were, would call me a fag and like, oh, city kid and all this and, skater fag. And because I was like going to visit them in Spokane and bringing all of my like, Pearl Jam tapes with me and stuff like that. And I just, was just constantly made fun of them. They kept trying to brainwash me and turn me to their side, like it was, like it was a side. I was on the dark side and they were on the lights. It was just ridiculous, and so I immediately just kind of shunned it. But nothing changes what's in your heart and what's in your head, and I really do have a deep love for a lot of that. Beautiful American folk music and country music. So let's get right into it. First on the list, this is top 10. So number 10 on the list is a man that would be considered to be the kind of the great godfather of modern day country. Somebody that was credited with taking what was kind of just like folk, kind of podunk, redneck, just kind of hoedown music and bringing it up into the limelight of like kind of singer songwriter, where there was like a man or a woman that was like, the spotlight and kind of like, was really the person that ushered in, the fame of the Grand Ole Opry and all that stuff. So I'm talking, of course, about the legendary Roy Acuff and his Smoky Mountain Boys. And he was a famed fiddler and a really great vocalist. Started out, I believe, like I think he started his career in the late 20s and into the 30s. And so, like I said, he was truly like the godfather of kind of ushering this new era of like, folk music, what people were just playing, on their back porches down home Tennessee, and really bringing it into the limelight. And so a lot of, when people think of that real kind of like romanticized American folky, like the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" soundtrack and stuff like that kind of sound. That's what you're hearing out of this type of country music, and I really love the aspects of Southern soul and gospel that he was introducing into modern day folk and country music. And so you get a ton of that. I mean, Great Speckled Bird is the name of this album, amongst many other hits. There's, the Fireball Mail, about the, the fire engine, and the Wreck on the Highway. That's a fantastic song that he's known for. So yeah, this is like a, many hits by him. But of course, the title of the album being The Great Speckled Bird, that's his most famous track. And it's, obviously like heavy religious undertones, and the whole concept and thought about the Great Speckled Bird being an analogy of the Bible and Christianity and how it was kind of kicked around by other people and whatever. So yeah, a lot of, like I said, a lot of Southern soul and Southern gospel music mixed in with kind of the modern day country fare, and that's what you have is, modern day country singer-songwriter stuff was born. And so Roy Acuff being considered the godfather of that. I just love this album to death. It's just, like I said, it has that really wonderful old-timey singing into a tin can kind of sound to it. The recording, really super old and great. And I love the art, and just everything about it just kind of reminds me of my, the old timers in my family, my grandfather and grandmother and stuff like that. They love this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's number 10 on the list. Love me some Roy Acuff. And this being credited is when I started getting back into record collecting again as an adult decades ago. This was actually one of the first LPs that I ever got. Like, I like, in a dollar bin or whatever. Actually, I don't think I got it. I think my ex-wife went out and knew that I was getting back into record collecting a bunch and bought me a handful of records that she saw at a antique store, and this was one of them. So bless her heart, and this is a wonderful album. So that's number 10. That's number 10 on the list. Number 9 on the list, another not necessarily oldie, but definitely a goodie. I've brought this one out many times. You've all heard me gush and sing the praises of this artist, and I've also talked a lot about how really I consider him to be more of a folk artist than a country artist, but you can't deny his, the stamp that he placed on American country music, and how he kind of, whether he wanted to be a part of it or not, he was definitely a part of it. And so, of course, I'm talking about the wonderful John Denver. Love John Denver to death. Brought him up a lot, but this monumental album, Rocky Mountain High, yeah, I can sing its praises for forever and forever. But yeah, like, I was saying how they are just, you know, either side of a beautiful shiny coin. American folk music and country music, it just really, they really are the same thing. They kind of go hand in hand. Peanut butter and jelly, basically. So yeah, I just really had to bring him up and mention him again as being definitely one of my top 10 country music artists of all time. The hits that are on this album is just fucking phenomenal. Just such a beautiful album. So detailed and so, you know, just haunting in a lot of different ways. So that's number 9 on my list. John Denver's Rocky Mountain High, 1971. Yeah, can't deny that one. So going into the realm of the obvious here, of course, everyone would expect this gentleman to be on my list of top 10 country artists of all time. He's definitely one of the heavyweights, one of the champions of American country music. But then going through his just like exhausting and overwhelming catalog of music over the span of fucking 50 plus year career, yeah, it's tough. I have a lot of his albums, and some of them are kind of just the same old, kind of lackluster. I wouldn't say lackluster, but just kind of like, real, just kind of run of the mill. Some of what he was putting out, because he put out so much, was a little run of the mill. He got really deep into some like real, religious areas of, aspects of his musical career. Of course, battled with drugs and battled with depression and just all kinds of shit. We all know the story. We've all been told the tale. But out of all his albums and every aspect of his career, this just is always one of my favorites. I love the image of him on the cover, the old ragged flag and Johnny Cash, the Man in Black. Here, all decked out in full denim garb, of course, but he's telling you, don't forget the old ragged flag. And this, this being his like middle 70s sound, I really like the recording, the production value of this, and just kind of the real high reverb, heavy like tin can sound you're getting from him, and just the way his husky, baritone bass voice counteracts with that reverb kind of sound that they always got, that tin can sound that they got on his that vocal effect. Yeah, I love this album. And just the imagery, and like I said, the songs, the Pie in the Sky song, dude, that's like probably one of my favorite old time. I don't think, obviously he didn't write that, but the cover that he does of that, and it's just a traditional, kind of southern, old timey country tune. The way he does it, it's to close out the A side. It's just such a great album. I love that song. Just the overall feeling and imagery of this album, just kind of like it really. This just sounds like the real Johnny Cash to me. So I like that middle 70s career Johnny Cash. So had to bring this one out. This is number, what did I say? 10, 9, 8. This is number 8 on my list of top country albums in my collection. All right, moving along here. Something a little bit different. This is a new artist. Wanted to try to insert some newer artists in here, and this individual just really surprised the hell out of me. This was a blind buy that I just picked up at the record store one day because the art looked beautiful, and I knew nothing about it, and I was I'm never usually that hesitant to pick up interesting looking EPs because they're usually pretty affordable. This was only like $13.99 or something like that. There's a half an hour of music on it, and it looked interesting. The label, I recognized the label. I can't remember what artists I've seen come out of this label before, but I think this is a record label out of Washington State, like Seattle area. I think this artist hails from the Seattle area. He goes by the moniker Kishibashi. That's not his real name. That's just kind of like a pseudonym that he uses. It's like a smash up of his real full name, which is a lot longer and more elaborate. He's a Japanese American man and a killer violinist, fiddle player, and I think he's multi-instrumentalist, probably plays guitar, and I think he does some of the banjo picking on here and a lot of different things, but a really mellow, great, soft, kind of Americana, very mellow bluegrass sound to this. You just have, this is like kind of just like kicking it with your toes in the river kind of music, really low key, really just sets the mood and just so mellow and so great, has all those aspects and feelings that you get from classical, not classical, I mean, but classic country, classic Americana kind of country, with just a more modern day kind of, newfangled spin on it, and a more kind of cultured and eclectic spin, you know what I mean? The guy, I think I read about him, I think he was originally a member of the group of Montreal. He was the fiddle player in the group of Montreal. And so that's where he kind of began his career. And then I don't know if he's originally from the Pacific Northwest, but then anyway, ended up in the Pacific Northwest and has a blooming career going here. So everyone check out this EP that he brought out, I think really early, just last year in 2021. It's called The Emigrant EP by Kishibashi. So yeah, check it out. Like I said, lots of really great stylings, bluegrass, mellow bluegrass. This isn't rip roaring, foot stomping kind of bluegrass, Yonder Mountain String Band type of stuff. This is real low key, mellow. Like I said, dipping your toes in the river, sipping a beer kind of music. Real great. Really, a lot of it reminds me of kind of like the mid '90s stuff that Bela Fleck was doing when he would play on Fish albums and stuff in the 90s. That what's that album that Fish did called Hoist, the Fish album Hoist, and there's a ton of real kind of country Americana stylings type of songs on that album, and you just have real subtle interjections by banjo and fiddle on a few of those songs, and that's what a lot of this kind of stuff reminds me of, especially the song Laughing With. That's a great song, really great tongue-in-cheek, kind of just almost spoken word, very poetic type of song that he does. So yeah, everyone check this out now. It's really fucking good. That's number 7 on my favorite country music artists. All right, another old-timey one. I love these old-timey artists, man. This one especially, this one reminds me of my grandparents. This is the type of music that was always on in their home when it wasn't spirituals, when it wasn't just on the Jesus station on Sundays, while we were sitting around the breakfast table eating Honey Nut Cheerios. Grandpa and grandma were very religious folks, but wonderful salt of the earth people, and they come from some very redneck country roots. Both grandpa and grandma grew up on farms and grew up doing cowboy shit. My grandma was a pioneer type woman, kind of could do everything and anything, and yeah, so was grandpa. But this was the type of music that was on in their house when I was growing up, so this will always remind me of them. The Sons of the Pioneers, and of course the Cool Water album. This one's just got all the hits on it. I love just the old style of the painting on the LP art, the living stereo, RCA Victor label. This sounds amazing. I found this copy in a bargain bin 15 years ago. Got the original insert. The wax is just immaculate. Plays and sounds just, it's just beautiful. Yippee-ki-yay-yo, get along, little doggies. Yeah, everything you could imagine out of that country western sound, the original country western sound of the 40s and 50s, when they took the popular sound of the ragtime turn of the century, when men were known for doing the barbershop quartet style, and then they took the barbershop quartet thing and put that Americana country folk twist on it. So you have, 4 to 5 part harmony singers, all male singers on here, just doing all of these wonderful, harmonizing and just wonderful, beautiful vocal parts. A lot of times comical and whimsical, a lot of times very serious and somber and beautiful. I'm sure you've all heard that wonderful tune, Cool Water. But yeah, this one just brings back so many great memories, and it'll always be in my collection. It'll always remind me of my grandmother. Had to bring this up. So definitely on my top, what is this, number 6 now? Probably 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, something like that. Definitely will always be on my top 10 country music albums. Sons of the Pioneers. All right. Getting down the line here. Thanks again for joining me this evening, everybody, and talking about country western and American folk music. Yeah, this is a list I've been working on for a little while. I don't have a ton of this type of stuff in my collection, so it wasn't really difficult to piece this all together, but I knew I wanted to do this as a list just to kind of prove to you all that, there's something for everybody in American folk and American country music. It's one of those things it's truly American by nature, and it's just, there's nothing like it in the rest of the world, and it's one of the few art styles, that America truly is solely responsible for, taking all those wonderful aspects that we got from the old world nations, bluegrass and stuff, that comes from traditional Celtic folk and that type of thing. We all know that, but then we bastardize everything, So on that end, you have all that bastardized awesome shit that makes, what we have here now, and that's our American folk and country music. And just like what we did with jazz, jazz is one of those things that's just, it's truly solely just an American made thing. So yeah, cool. Definitely wanted to highlight that. This is another group of 2 individuals. I've brought this one out before. I just love this woman so much. I've brought it up before and talked about it on, probably on the video I did about artists you've never heard of or something like that. But this is a woman and a man, but primarily the leader of the band is a woman named Suzanne DeSanto. She is continued to be highlighted and brought on to Joe Rogan's podcast, because obviously he's got a huge crush on her too, just like the rest of the world. But she's so talented, she's so amazing. And unfortunately, this group no longer exists, but this is a group that she was heading about a decade ago, probably made a few albums with a friend of hers. This man, I never remember his name, but he has a wonderful voice and plays guitar with her, and she sings primarily with her fiddle as well. And they're just called Honey Honey. This album is just titled 3, I'm assuming, because it's their 3rd LP they ever released. Chock full of hits. It's really fantastic. She has now moved on to a solo career, a very famous solo career, so she's doing really well for herself, which I'm glad to hear. But yeah, this album, the first time I ever saw her perform on Joe Rogan's podcast, my jaw just hit the floor. They were just like drunk, and he was like prodding her, trying to get her to like sing a John Prine song that she just does so much justice to. It's the Angel Over Montgomery, that song that he wrote, and she sang a version of that, and I just almost started crying. It was so fantastic. She's so talented, and he is equally as talented. There's so much material on here. There's 12 songs. She sings a song on here called Yours to Bear, which is also a drop you to your knees track. That's what this album is. It's just like, it's just 50 minutes of just bring you to your knees type of music. It's really beautiful, excellent, country western, kind of honky tonk stylings. But yeah, you get some moments of kind of like modern pop country. They have a full band on here, so they used to tour with a backing band, and she does now too, but now she's just really, it's her in the spotlight with her fiddle, and she's just killing it. But yeah, anyone, if you ever find any of these records out there by the band Honey Honey, pick them up, because they're rare and they're wonderful, and it's just one of my favorites, one of my favorite country western albums. Just wanted to bring that out too. All right, moving on down the line here, getting to like the top 4, I think, right? This was tough because I love all these artists so much. Um, this guy in the upper echelon again, with just a huge bulk of a career, you know 50, 60 years of a career to pick from. What do you look for? He's one of the many outlaws of country music. One of the guys that kind of coined that style of country music that was coming out of the 60s and 70s, the outlaw country stars. And I just love the shit out of him. There's not a lot you can really say about the guy besides the fact that he's just fucking incredible. Chris Christopherson. And this album, Borderlands, I've listened to a lot of his albums. This one, in my opinion, is by far his best. Really fantastic mix of the folk and Americana and hippie shit you were hearing coming out of Bob Dylan and all that from the 60s. He really took that and said, well, hey, I love this, but I'm a country boy and I'm not going to change my roots, and just really mix the two so well. Just kind of, you have that kind of like Jim Morrison, hippie kind of like Lizard King kind of attitude and movements and what he's doing, but definitely kind of like a good old country boy style. I just really love the shit out of this album. It's the A side, dude. The A side on this album is fucking unstoppable. The title track, Border Lord. Somebody Nobody Knows. I think, was that a Dolly Parton song? I don't know. Rita Coolidge. I think it was Rita Coolidge that helped him write a couple of these tunes because I think they were married at some point in time. But yeah, Rita Coolidge is gorgeous. Anyway, the A side on this album, my favorite song on the album, my favorite song of all time of his, is the Stagger Mountain Tragedy song. If anybody's never listened to that song, Stagger Mountain Tragedy, fucking check that song out. It is beautiful. It is an amazing, amazing track. Kind of honky tonk fiddle, kind of Western ballad, Western waltz kind of feel to it. The lyrics are really fucking cool. He's like detailing, what could be considered like kind of a fever dream. To me, I'm pretty sure he's talking about an LSD trip, but the lyrics are really cool. He's talking about a woman that's been haunting him, and he sees her in his dreams, and like all the picturesque kind of stuff that he's describing in his lyrics. And then he talks about the eagle like screaming in his mind and stuff like that. Like, yeah, it's fucking rad. I'm pretty sure it's based on an LSD trip. But really fantastic fucking album. Yeah, Borderland by Chris Christopherson is definitely up there. Number 4 on my list of my favorite country music albums of all time. Number 3, again, one of the outlaws, of course, the man himself. You can't deny Willie Nelson. Willie, I love you. The Redheaded Stranger himself. Fuck, this album is so good. The subtle beauty of his voice and the storytelling and just everything, the illustrations, everything outlined on the back, just the whole detailed story of what he's talking about. What a beautiful modern day country storyteller that he is. God, I hope he hangs in there. We're gonna lose him pretty soon, and it's gonna break my heart. But everything about this album is an absolute treasure. He's an American treasure. It's just poetry. It's wonderful. Yeah, just the whole preacher theme of the first side of the album, Times of the Preacher, how he revisits that theme like 3 or 4 times throughout the whole thing, in between like the blue-eyed man from Blue Rock, Montana, the blue-eyed crying stranger, and the redheaded stranger, and talking about shooting the gold-haired lady and just all that. Just a beautiful story. And I love this album so fucking much. I got this at like a garage sale blindly. I don't know, probably like 10 or 15 years ago. And I never, like I said, I never really listened to, country music that much. But I, of course, knew of Willie Nelson and his, legendary status. And I just swiped this up, and then you put it on and you really, really listen intently and really put some effort and energy into the story being told. And it's just timeless. Timeless, beautiful, beautiful album. Redheaded Stranger, 1975, Willie Nelson. Yep, number 3 on my favorite country records of all time. Number 2 on the list, my man, John Prine, 1971. Fuck yeah, dude. Self-titled. It's an Atlantic, yeah, Atlantic Records, 1971. Arguably the greatest modern day country star, singer-songwriter of our day. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna just sit here and just like gush about this album. This man's a fucking genius. He always was a genius. His sense of humor and his style of writing and his wit and his delivery. What a storyteller. And not afraid to. Of course, he's not afraid, but I mean, just unabashedly just telling the stories that people didn't tell. The stories about like the deprived and you know the downtrodden. you know Songs like Sam Stone and songs like Hello in There. you know Fucking starts out the album with Illegal Smile. you know? Oh, I didn't kill anyone, I'm just trying to have me some fun. Yeah, this is the album with Angel from Montgomery on it. Yeah, dude. Donald and Lydia. Fuck. Yeah, the 6 o'clock news song. Yeah, timeless. Timeless beauty. John Prine, self-titled. 1971. Doesn't get any better than this. This was going to be number 1 on my list, but then when I looked at what else it was up against, I was like, yeah, gotta put the legend where the legend belongs to be. The legend, of course, being the man himself, Woody Guthrie. This is my favorite country music album of all time. American folk country music. This man's kind of responsible for a lot of it, if not all of it. This is a super amazing reissue of like a Folkway, the Folkway records that they did sometime. It's from the 70s, but then they repressed it more recently, sometime in the early 2000s. But that's what this is, a cut from the original Folkways. This is called Struggle. Lots of classics on here. Of course, he does his rendition of Get Along Little Dogies, which is far different than anyone has really ever been used to. He was known for that. He was known for taking, these classic, hymns and classic cowboy songs and stuff like that, and kind of re-envisioning them and redoing them differently than a lot of people remember. He was well known for that. The song Struggle Blues, my favorite song being the Waiting at the Gate song. If you've never heard that tune by him, it's just jaw-droppingly amazing. A song about, a lot of these songs are about, Virginia coal miners and, Kentucky coal miners and stuff. And that's kind of, that's where he's from. And the song Waiting at the Gate is just about like this young boy and this family, like they're going to the coal mine and like waiting at the gate of the elevator that takes men down into the coal mine, and just waiting there and hoping that their father comes home alive every day. And then one day he doesn't. Like all these families' fathers like die in the coal mine in this giant tragic accident. And yeah, songs like that, it's fucking amazing. It's a piece of history, American history, that should not be ignored and should never be forgotten. This truly has to be one of he is one of the greatest folk artists of American history, and should be renowned throughout the world for his contributions musically, and the oral history and the written history of this type of stuff. But yeah, this album specifically called Struggle, really fantastic. pieced together by the Folkway record label. Did a great job of like getting all this archival recorded stuff by him, and it sounds amazing. It's really fantastic. So everyone check this out. You can get, like I said, this is a more recent reissue, I think from the early 2000s. And you can find copies of it for less than 30 bucks, I think. So I think that's what I paid, probably like 30 bucks. So definitely check it out. He's my favorite country folk music artist of all time. So yeah, wanted to bring this out and highlight it. That's my number one. That's my list, everybody. So thanks for joining me this evening. I just wanted to talk about country music, folk music. That's my 10 favorite in my collection. So yeah, be good to each other. Spin your records loud, play them proud, and peace be with you.